Hello, good evening, welcome. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. You are on Damn Radio. Damn glad to have you. Without the N, remember we don't swear around here. And I think I might tonight though. I'm on a roll. I'm like butter, baby. I'm on a roll. There's a I I have to start with this. Okay. And I'm going to swear. I'll get the swearing out of the way right away, although it's not really a swear word. It's just rude. So many of you know that I served in the Army before I get started on that, if you feel like calling in tonight, might be fun. You could call in and chat with me. 573-746-8020. I get the 80, you get the 20, and I'd be happy to chat with you. So call in if you feel like it. But I got plenty to talk about on top of all of that. And so let's get started. I'm going to start with a little Army story. So I served in the Army for not quite 15 years, like 14 plus, 14 in several months. Almost 10 of that on active duty. And I remember always having trouble with idiots getting promoted, right? And people, I mean, we used to make jokes about it. And one of them went something like this. It was a limerick, if you will. And the limerick went a little bit like this. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack got stupid and stepped on his dick. Then he got promoted. And that's how it goes. Okay, that is the joke. So basically that is the and I don't know if that's really a limerick because it doesn't add up to however many words you're supposed to have on each or whatever. But we always thought it was fun anyway. And if you had an idiot for a boss or an idiot in charge of something, which seemed to go around fairly frequently on the military end, as any former military person could tell you. Now, there was definitely a huge number of very good soldiers and very professional types as well. But it seemed like the further you went up the ladder, the worse the problem became. And it's funny that this was about a guy named Jack, because I saw a guy named Jack, a former general named Jack. Well, he's probably once a general, always a general. I think you never relinquish your sidearm. Isn't that what they said? Jack Nicholson. Oh my God, he was a Jack also. Jack Nicholson said they don't ever relinquish their sidearm, right? I don't know if that was him. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? But here's a Jack Keane on television. Okay, now everybody knows I've got kind of an obsession with what goes on the eastern part of Europe, and there's so much to go through tonight. I'm not even sure I'll get through it all, but there's something fishy going on, but I want you to listen to this, and if you're not alarmed by it, you should be. You should be. I don't want to say anything rude, but here we go. Listen to this, and I hope last time I clicked on it, it sent me over to some advertisement, and I'm hoping it doesn't make me go through that again. If it does, we'll have to wait because this is from a television station that's you can take their stuff off the internet. And here it goes. This is Jack Keane, and someone had asked him if Ukraine and Russia, how the war's going over there, and listen to what he says. Come
Russian
on.
troops on their ground. Even if the United States and Europe pulled away and eventually Russia would topple Ukraine, the Ukrainians will continue to fight. They'll fight them as long as Russian troops are there. And that's just the reality of it. Russia is not giving up the fight because they believe they can win. even though 39 months into this thing, they haven't been able to take Ukraine. Think about that. That's how long we fought in World War II to get rid of the Nazis in Europe. Yeah. So it's really quite remarkable. But to underscore this.
Okay. Now, did you hear what that goofball said? He said, Russia still thinks they can win the war. Russia thinks they can do it, although they've been fighting this war for however many months, 39, I think he said, who knows, which is how long we fought. We get that, we fought in Europe in World War II. We, who came to the party extremely late when compared to who? The Soviet Union, who had been fighting since 39. They had been fighting all this. When did we join? 39 months. For us, it was 1942 before we got in, right? And who killed, and this is a pop quiz question, who killed, which army killed more than 80%? You can bring on Professor Paisley, and he can tell you what army killed 80% of all of the German personnel lost in World War II. If you, like Jack Keane, said, we won the war and we killed all the Germans, you get zip, you get nothing. You lose. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200, and you do not go to the next round where scores really can go up. You don't get to go there. You've been whammied, as that show. No whammy, no whammy. You've been whammied. And you lose. Just like a general has just gotten whammied by Sammy. And Sammy says, this guy, I struggle to not call him a moron. I mean, he's got to have some redeeming qualities. But what in the world is he talking about? Okay? Even given that this attack by Ukraine into Russia, and I've spent 2 days telling you that I think it was a pretty good attack. I don't think Ukraine did it by themselves, which we'll get into a little bit later here, and I've already said some of what I think upon that. But Jack Keane is not too bright to say that because Ukraine could smuggle drones into Russia on civilian tractor trailers and have the tops of the containers roll back and these drones lift off from these containers less than not far at all, 1 or 2 kilometers, if that, to the airfields where the Russian government is required to keep their bomber fleets under open skies so that U.S. satellites can verify the number and quantity and configuration that they are required to have them under air, just as we are. That means that Ukraine is going to win the war. What? What in the world are you talking about? This guy, and he went on to say a couple other things. Well, that's the important part. But listen to what else he has to say. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I forgot something.
A little bit of an understatement. 5 airfields were targeted. 4 were successful. 2 of those airfields,
2 were
one
successful.
was in Siberia to the east, and another one was actually close to China. 3 of them were in the western part of Russia, one really quite north, close to the Arctic. All of them were targeting bombers that are used either in the strikes against civilians and also against ground troops in Ukraine, and they deliver conventional bombs or air-launched cruise missiles. Some of the ones in the east, we can't verify whether they've been used in Ukraine or not, but they certainly would be used to replace the damaged bombers that are in.
Okay, well, he didn't get to it. It must be further on, but I'm not. That thing, the sound is not very good on it anyway, and it's a little bit too low. And I think the higher I turn it up, the worse the sound gets. So I'm not going to. So that's, let's call that idiocy number one. that's idiocy of today. Number one. I wish I had something better to call it. What a show that I watch fairly frequently. Show, a channel that I watch fairly frequently by a guy named Alex Christoforou, and I do recommend that you listen to that if you get the opportunity. He has had some pretty harsh words on a lot of things recently, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. In fact, I might even play a little clip of his. And I tell you what, it's yeah. I'm at a loss for words over what this guy said. You do not have to be a World War II aficionado to know that Russia lost how many millions? A low number that they say is 26 million soldiers. America lost 600,000. Okay? And then he says Russia can't win this war. They can't take over Ukraine. He completely ignores what happened in Vietnam. How long were we there? What happened in Korea? How long were we there? What happened in Iraq 1, and how long were we there? What happened in Iraq 2, and how long were we there? What happened, for God's sake, in Afghanistan, and how long were we there? What happened in Syria? How long have we been there? I mean, this is like fish in a barrel. I mean, this guy was called on to national TV and talking about this level of crap only because he has general before his name. Where in the hell did this guy get his stars? Oh my God, they should have kept him at colonel. You know, in fact, he never should have gotten past major. And it's just, if he's, what in the world is he talking about? All of this. Because Ukraine, with somebody's help, definitely went and blew up the numbers, we don't know, blew up some planes, right? And, you know, who knows which side's propaganda is correct on that. But General Jack Keane wants to call this the brilliant Ukraine operation against Russia. Well, the rest of the world doesn't feel that way, okay? The rest of the world thinks there was I don't know if you guys watch this guy, but I watch him, and I've talked about him before, and I met him in Kazan last year in Russia. His name is George Galloway. Now, he started his own television or YouTube channel, and he calls it the mother of all talk shows, and somebody helped him set this up right. It's called MOATS, MOATS, Mother of All Talk Shows. He did a show just today. Now, his Sunday shows are call in. You can call in and text in, and you can get on his program. And I met this guy, and he's funny as hell anyway. He's a former British MP, and he is very well connected, and he's very, very intelligent. And if you want to watch something interesting, go to one that was on YouTube tonight. And I'm not going to play it because it's 20 minutes, and I don't like stealing other people's work. But he's had already, just tonight, and he only put this on 4 hours ago, 585,000, 585,000 subscribers, and he's got 5,000 likes, God knows how many views. Oh, here you go, 46,000 views of this thing already. And he's worth listening to, by the way. I highly recommend the guy. He's very, very smart, first of all, and he's very, very experienced, second of all, former British MP, and a normal, nice guy. And he won't remember me at all. I mean, there was a group of us that were sitting there talking, but he was very, very nice and very well spoken, and he was very popular with people in Russia trying to get his opinion in English. Right. The only reason I was popular in Russia is because I speak Russian. And I wanted to get my opinion in Russian, and Galloway doesn't speak Russian, so I got the front of the line on that one as a foreigner who speaks Russian. So that helped me out a little bit. But he has created his talk show. It's well worth listening to his talk show, and I want to. The only reason I bring up his talk show, and if you get a chance to watch it, he didn't say anything about Jack Keane. He was talking about President Trump. And he thinks, it appears, this is the first time I've listened to him in a couple of weeks, but he thinks the same way that I think on a large number of these things. And I'm going to go into why I think the way I do here in a little bit. But if you get a chance, go out to YouTube. His name is George Galloway. That's the name of his channel also. And he has his talk show on Sundays. I don't get to listen to it all that much, but I definitely, when I get a chance, I go out and check him out. And he had one called Dragging Us into Armageddon, which was today. And in it, there's a survey that he conducted. And he did it in his on his program on Sunday, which he says had 4 million views. This guy's getting huge numbers, and he had no talk show, at least not that I'm aware of, before here several months ago. I don't think he's had it for that long, but he's got this mother of all talk shows, and maybe I'm incorrect on when it came out, but I never saw it before, and now it's everywhere. And so he did one that said, because I've had the same questions I told you yesterday and the day before, that somebody on the Western side, somebody in the U.S. knew or provided or handed over U.S. intelligence to Ukraine, or they never could have pulled this off. And the videos that I saw were U.S. detailed color photographs of these bombing or bomber airfields, where the planes were stationed, which ones were where. They had full layouts in high definition color, and Ukraine doesn't even have a satellite. Ukraine's got no satellites. So where do you think they got that information? And if Zelensky was putting this together for 18 months and using U.S. technology, and isn't it odd that it's not odd, but I say that a little bit facetiously here, that isn't it odd that Lindsay Graham and Mike Pompeo and what the hell's his name, Blumenthal, were there a day before in Ukraine, and Lindsey Graham's room. There's all kinds of stuff all over Europe talking about this. That his room was $413,000 is what he spent, and that Blumenthal, his room for 3 days, $463,000. Somebody is feeding the kitty over there. Somebody is passing out money over there for whatever reason they find. There ain't no way that they went to Kiev and spent on 3 days with, let's say they each had 10 staffers. You could get, it's $500 a room maximum. I mean maximum. They're passing out money for something here. They're doing something. Maybe they're buying intelligence from somewhere. Maybe they're paying people to be quiet. I don't have any faith in what they're doing over there. You kidding me? These guys are slime. And they've been slime for a long time. All they care about is military-industrial complex. All they care about is the next war. Lindsay Graham's been supporting war forever. And Blumenthal too. And Pompeo, well, I think, and I'm going to go into it a little bit about what I really think of what is going on with the old Trumpster, because Galloway also showed a post by Donald Trump, posted and then taken down, according to Galloway. It doesn't exist anymore. Here's what Trump reported on his own Truth Social after his call with Putin, right? So Trump today talked to Putin. Trump speaks to Putin and then hour and 15 minutes. By all accounts, there was an hour and 15-minute discussion, and they had a good conversation and blah, blah, blah. And here's what Trump posted afterward. I just finished speaking by telephone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted an hour and 15 minutes. We discussed the attack on Russia's docked airplanes by Ukraine and also various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. We also discussed Iran and the fact that time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. I stated to President Putin that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and on this, I believe we were in agreement. President Putin suggested that he will participate in the discussions with Iran and that he could perhaps be helpful in getting this brought to a rapid conclusion. It is my opinion that Iran has been slow-walking their decision on this very important matter, and we will need a definitive answer in a short period of time. That post, according to Galloway, has been removed as of 3-4 hours ago. Gone, because his post just came out 3-4 hours ago, and very curious how quiet Trump has been about everything Ukraine. Now, I generally listen to, 2-3 hours of other sources during the day. But a lot of it I listen to in Russian. And I accumulate my thoughts and I put it all together for everyone. And then by the time I'm ready to do my show at night, I know what the heck I'm going to talk about and what my thoughts are. And I was having these, and I've been having them for several days. If you listen to my show frequently, you know that I've been having troubles since this attack on the airfields. I outlined what happened according to the New START treaty, which was entered into force in 2011, which requires Russia to keep its bombers out under the open sky, just like in the U.S. And if you remember, I, of course, worked on arms control treaties between the United States and Russia, and I went to school on START 1 and START 2, but was not a part, obviously, of some call it START 3, but it's not really that. It's the New START treaty. And that was agreed upon in 2010 and went into effect in 2011. Now, Russia hasn't, since the war started, nobody's been following the strict requirements of it because the U.S. hasn't been asking for inspections, and Russia wouldn't grant them anyway, and nobody's going to let the Russians come over. Hell, they come over, they'll get arrested, and nobody has any faith in what we do on this side of the world. They just don't. And so, I've had my own issues with respect to this. And I was having and I'm trying to figure out why Trump is allowing the neocons to control what's going on in Russia, and especially the Lindsay Grahams. Well, when I listened to the Lindsay Graham speech that I played for you last night, and I listened to it again, well, you know what? I played it for you two nights ago when when he was standing there in Kiev, and the things he was saying, that we have a surprise. Ukraine's not losing. Remember those words? Ukraine isn't losing, and they needed a victory. I can't imagine that he was not aware of what was going on. Galloway, on his mother of all talk shows, took his 4 million people from Sunday night and took a survey and asked, did Trump okay the strikes by Ukraine on the airfields? And it's a survey that he took. And he had different levels of the survey, and he didn't very well outline how they were. So I suggest you go watch it. Maybe you'll catch it better than I did. But I believe these are how the numbers came out. Did Trump okay the attack? And it came out to be 58-42, call it. Okay. And so 58 believed that Trump okayed the attack, and 42. When he changed the question to say, did somebody else okay it and not tell Trump, the number went up to 79% yes and 21% no. That the 79% of the respondents, and he said it was a huge number, responded that somebody like a Lindsey Graham type or some other person fed this data to Ukraine. And he even said that he thought that perhaps it started back because, remember, Zelensky claims that he was putting this together himself personally for 18 months. That was when Biden was still in office. Maybe they were giving this information to them then, and it just continued after Trump, and Trump doesn't know about it. Well, either way, Trump needs to come out and deny something because they're going to pull him in. But I also think it might be too late. Okay? First of all, Pompeo, I don't trust that guy. Nobody does. Lindsey Graham, I don't trust that guy. Nobody does. Blumenthal, I don't know him well enough. You don't hear about him as much. But now, I don't trust him, and I bet nobody does. and Trump has been completely silent. Not a word. Which is really weird because his heart's always on his sleeve. He's always posting something on his Truth Social, putting out everything out there. And maybe this is why. Now think about this. Make sure I'm not too crazy here. And if you think I'm crazy, call in and tell me that I'm crazy. All right? Why don't we think about this? What is on Trumpster's mind even as we speak, and the biggest thing that he's been dealing with on his own? What does he want that Lindsey Graham can give him? A big, beautiful bill. Lindsey Graham is over there threatening Trump in Kiev, saying, we don't need the president. We got, they think you don't have any cards to play over here, Ukraine. But we think you got cards. And we, the Senate of the United States, we're ready. We're ready. Well, there's whatever number he said, I don't remember, 78, 82, whatever number he said of senators that are ready to put together package number 18 of crippling sanctions against Russia. Crippling! We're going to cripple Russia with these sanctions. And what are we going to do? We're going to cripple them with sanctions, and they will crawl. And then we'll have people like Jack Keane say, they're losing. They're not losing. They don't give a crap about your sanctions if you wish to bring them. But Trump cares about losing his big, beautiful bill. And over the big, beautiful bill, which has boatloads of pork in it, remember what Zelensky was asking for. And guess who went over there to force the issue? The big slime balls that go over and want to get more military industrial complex money. Remember what Zelensky asked for just a couple weeks ago, a week and a half, something like that? $38 billion is what he needs. They need another big shot in the arm, $60 billion from the U.S. They're going to get it, unfortunately. And Lindsey Graham's going to be the one to give it to him, because otherwise Trump don't get his big, beautiful bill. And they're going to hide in that big, beautiful bill when they do the House reconciliation with what the Senate reconciliation is. They're going to hide in that. Whole bunch more money for Ukraine. It'll be hidden somewhere. And Elon Musk is gone. And without Musk, I'll bet you anything that the Doge isn't as effective. And with Elon Musk saying, I hate that big pork-filled bill. And it's a whatever he called it, a turkey, something that I can't remember what he called it, but I don't know. I am thinking that this is horrible stuff. Graham over in Kiev, Graham on German state TV, bad mouthing Trump. Graham with versus Trump's big beautiful bill. And he wants dollars for Ukraine. As I've said, this is becoming, or already is, Trump's war. It's now Trump's war. And now we have Zelensky getting into the picture. Zelensky's out there saying, oh, we're coming over. We're coming. Nobody's invited him, but he's coming anyway. And he's coming, and he wants to meet with Trump, and he wants to get more money. He wants more money, and but remember, he wants to come over and buy weapons from the United States. He now wants to buy them. With what money? You defaulted on all of your debt last month. You can't pay your people. What are you going to buy U.S. armaments with? Maybe that's what the Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham money is going to. We'll bring over a bag of cash for you to get it. Meanwhile, we got Kellogg over here. Rubio's totally silent. Kellogg's all over the place, and with Yermak, and those two guys are hugging it out on TV. Zelensky talks about Russia's ultimatum. They say Russia didn't even present us anything we could accept. That's because you're losing. You are losing. Regardless of what idiots like Keane are going to say, you're not winning. What you took out on the airfields is not going to change a damn thing. And everybody's publishing all this. Go out and look for this, too, if you get a chance on YouTube or anywhere else. Look for the video of the third attack on the Crimean Bridge. The third attack on the Crimean Bridge. And it got nowhere. Russia took out a drone boat. There was an explosion underneath the bridge near one of the columns, and the picture of it is really kind of, there's nothing there. So, meanwhile, it's a civilian bridge. That's not a military target. There's nothing military about it. There's no military crossing back and forth on Crimea. It's a peninsula, and people live there. There's nothing there. At least, that would transport arms or weapons back and forth. They blew up bridges in front of passenger trains. Trump, not a word about that. Trump, not a word about the attacks on the Crimean Bridge. Trump is being led around by the neocons. That's what's happening. And now Putin has said, so after all of this nonsense and after his conversation with Trump today, He said, there will be no meeting with Vladimir Zelensky. Because remember, Zelensky wants to get legitimized. And how? He gets legitimized by meeting with Trump and meeting with Putin. And Putin says, I'm not going to meet with him. He's not even a legitimate president. Their peace offering, which I told you about the other night, the peace offering requires elections to be conducted within 100 days of agreement on the peace proposal. And Zelensky's over here saying he won't even agree to a ceasefire. He won't agree to a... No, he won't agree to a ceasefire, and he's been saying that for a year. You've been begging for a ceasefire at least for 6 months since Trump came into office, and they've been very clear, we're not going to give you a ceasefire because all you'll do is have people like Lindsay Graham bring over more weapons, more soldiers. You can, regroup, and all of the heavy. Today it was reported that they gained another 28 kilometers or something today. It's picking up because Ukraine on the ground is losing, and they're trying to distract you from that by all these other things. And people like Lindsey Graham want to distract you for that and say, well, look what they're able to do. They're able to perform terrorist attacks inside of Russia. They're able to blow up planes and attack civilian stuff, but nobody mentions the civilian targets. Nobody mentions those. Russia is making steady gains. Ukraine has steady mobilization woes. Ukraine cannot do anything over this summer. Watch what happens on the ground over this summer. Or listen to me and I'll keep you posted on that, right? But what's going to happen if this extends into next winter? Because Ukraine will not have any civilian infrastructure. They won't have anything. Russia's going to take it all out. Yeah, they took out a bunch of it last year, and it's going to be a cold and miserable winter. That's what it's going to be. So the world is waiting for what response Russia will employ against Ukraine, because they still haven't answered. They still haven't done it. Now, Putin told Trump that he was going to answer, and maybe that's why Trump had to take down his post on Truth Social. I don't know. But why would he delete that post? There was nothing in there. So it's either somebody... who possibly could talk Trump into deleting a post off of Truth Social? Who? Lindsey Graham? Lindsey Graham saying you can't talk about that, or you're not going to get your big beautiful bill, or who could do that? I don't understand. Who can give away satellite information? I'll bet you anything Lindsey Graham can. Who provided that information? I don't know. I think I've gone far enough down that little rabbit hole. I wanted to talk a little bit about something else that well, you know what? Let's get to this totally lighter topic. I and this is definitely international, because I have, ever since I went to Hawaii, and I stayed on the Big Island. And if you know anything about Hawaii and the Big Island, that's where all the volcanoes are. Okay, there's like 3 active volcanoes on that island. And it was pretty cool. I saw lava flow take out one of the roads while I was there. I went up to the observation post where you can look and see down into the volcano. I didn't want to get too close. I didn't go on any of the hikes to get too close. I still, no, not interested. But I get these alerts when a big earthquake occurs. I get an alert. You can get on the National Geological Survey, and they will send you earthquakes around the world, volcanoes around the world, that kind of thing. They even have an app for it. And so I get notified about volcanoes, and I don't know if you saw it yet. It was in the news, and but for me, it popped up on my thing, so I went out and looked at it. And Mount Etna in uh, Italy, I think it's on Sicily, exploded, and it was wow, quite the interesting deal. And I believe it was on the 2nd, 2 days ago. And I don't know. I just like them. I find it very, very interesting to follow those things. Nobody killed. Italian government said, now there were people hiking up it on the day that it happened. They said they felt the rumblings, and there were people hiking up it, and they evacuated them, of course. And nobody dead, nobody injured. You know, at all. Everything was pretty well. But boy, it was a spectacular event. So again, if you get a chance to go out and check out anything on YouTube or wherever you get your information from, go out and have a look at that, because it was wow, pretty entertaining. Let's see. Well, it's not meant to be entertaining. I probably shouldn't call it entertaining. It's frightening, that's for sure. But I like that kind of thing. I wouldn't want to live through one, that's for sure. When I went over to Italy and I went to I'm a huge history guy of any level. It doesn't matter where it came from. Now, I prefer longer term history, you know, like 500 years. I really enjoyed Europe, but I liked it better in Uzbekistan, Uzbekistan especially. And the Silk Trail that was, you know, long ago in the 800 BC, the Silk Trail was working, and they're building some mosques and some building. I mean, it's pretty cool to go back and see everything. There's a lot of UNICEF. I can't remember, but whatever the organization is, it goes back and redoes them, and it's not UNICEF, it's something else. But whatever it is, it's cool to go back and see those things on the history, and so I like watching the history of all of these things when it comes out. So when something new and historic comes about, I'd like to share it, and I have a couple of things to in that regard. Where's my note on it? I have so many funny things to talk about today, and where'd it go? Darn it! I don't think we're gonna make it. Well, there's I can't find it. I can't find it. Well, crap, and I can't paraphrase it, so I'm not going to. So we're just gonna move on to a different topic altogether. Sorry about that, but here we go. We're gonna move on and talk about. Does everybody know who? And I mentioned her a little bit last night. Well, I found the article, and I wanted to take care of the Verbach issue and bring it up again for you to hear about tonight. Here's how the EU system rewards high officials for failure. The blatant incompetence shown by former German foreign minister Annalena 360 degrees Verbach has earned her a cushy new UN General Assembly post. This is an article by Rachel Marsden, and I sometimes follow her. I like to listen to. I think she's a smart ass, and I really like listening to it. So these are not my words. These are the words of Rachel Marsden, but pretty damn funny, I gotta say. Every circus needs a clown, and this one has a truly awesome demo reel. Despite the Greens snagging 85 seats in the current German parliament, it turns out they're about as useful as Friedrich Merz's shiny new right-left establishment coalition with the Christian Democrats. So they're relegated to chilling on the Bundestag back benches. Annalena Baerbock, the former German foreign affairs minister in ex-Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government, could have coasted into parliament again via the Greens party list, even after losing her direct seat to Scholz himself. But she apparently had bigger plans. She's just been tapped as the next president of the United Nations General Assembly. Before officially packing up at the foreign ministry, her own department nominated her for the UN gig. I say to get rid of her. They wanted to get her out of there. It's an administrative role, largely ceremonial. Why her? Well, it's Germany's turn to fill the seat for a year starting in September, and a career diplomat was first in line. You know, someone who hadn't become globally famous for flunking basic geometry. And well, we just can't stand for that. Not when the face of German diplomacy is no longer being kept by German voters in the manner in which she has become accustomed. Besides, check out her CV. In a moment that will live in infamy along Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, MLK's I Have a Dream, Pericles' funeral oration, and Churchill's We Shall Fight on the Beaches, Baerbock took the spotlight at the 2023 Munich Security Conference, asked whether Ukraine would be safe long-term if Vladimir Putin stayed in power in Russia. She replied, "If Putin doesn't change by 360 degrees, no." That's awesome. Apparently, she thinks a dizzy Putin would make all the difference. Perhaps it's not the first time that Baerbock, a former gymnast, confused a 360 with a 180 and landed on her head at some point. Either way, German school kids usually master this concept by age 10. And another Baerbockism, during a January 23 speech at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, she said, "We are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other." Cue her foreign ministry hastily clarifying that no, of course Germany hadn't just declared war on Russia. It was just Baerbock talk again. With all this experience as Germany's walking, talking diplomatic banana peel, she was clearly destined for bigger things on the world stage. So who could possibly object to shipping her off to the UN? Well, this guy, for one, it is outrageous to replace the best and most internationally experienced German diplomat with an outdated model, grumbled Christoph Huskin, former chair of the Munich Security Conference, referring to career diplomat Helga Schmid, reportedly sidelined in favor of Baerbock. An outdated model? Bold words, Mr. Former Conference Chair. Excuse you, but trusty single-cylinder moped-grade intellectualism never truly goes out of style. Ms. Baerbock can learn a lot from Schmid, said former German Minister Sigmar Gabriel. What's he suggesting? That Schmid moonlights as a geometry tutor? I can't take it. I like this article. Sorry to share it with you. So that makes two critics, including one who previously held Baerbock's job. But surely these bitter old guys are alone in their skepticism toward this pioneer of feminist foreign policy. No doubt it's just a coincidence that Mr. 18% popularity Scholz beat her in her own gang, and that Statista pegged her approval rating at a negative 0.7 on a scale of negative 5 to 5. And who really cares about the time she sounded kind of like she was unilaterally declaring war on Russia on behalf of Germany, or when she seemed unsure which country she was representing? Like at a September 22 forum when she said, "If I give the promise to people in Ukraine, we stand with you as long as you need us, then I want to deliver, no matter what the German voters think." At the time, Germany was deindustrializing and its citizens were being crushed by energy costs, both consequences of the very Ukraine policy Baerbock was committed to, with or without voter consent, as she suggested. But look, Baerbock isn't the only politician to turn a domestic faceplant into a corner office with a view at global governance Inc. Take European Commission President Queen Ursula von der Leyen. No, please take her, as former Chancellor Angela Merkel would say. Before becoming the unelected president of the European Commission, von der Leyen served as Germany's defense minister in Merkel's government from 2013 to 2019. Known more for glamour shots in front of jets than for actually equipping them, her ministry favored pricey consultants over functionality. One report noted there is neither enough personnel nor material, and often one confronts shortage upon shortage. The troops are far from being fully equipped. Well, unless you count the broomsticks used during training exercises sourced from Ursula's personal garage. Former European Parliament President Martin Schulz offered this glowing review of the current de facto queen of the EU. One thing is true, she ran in 2019, but not for European Parliament. She ran away from her ministry in Germany. He also tweeted in 2019, von der Leyen is our weakest minister. That's apparently enough to become commission president. Apparently, flunking your domestic portfolio is the new fast track to international prestige. Just ask Mark Rutte. The Dutch prime minister became so politically radioactive that his coalition partners were getting scorched by proximity. He resigned twice, first over child welfare scandal, then after failing to maintain unity on asylum policy. His solution? Bail out and become NATO's new Secretary General, essentially the West's chief weapons lobbyist. Or consider Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas. Her Reform Party slipped to third place under her leadership, dropping below 20% approval. As her coalition sank, she jumped ship and landed in Brussels as the EU's chief diplomat. Voters back home were apparently less impressed, especially after her government's tax hikes and perceived focus on Ukraine over Estonia. Even more awkward, while Kallas was calling to Europe to cut all ties with Russia, her husband's company, Stark Logistics, was still doing business in Russia. But apparently that kind of conflict of interest now screams diplomatic credential. So no, Baerbock's story isn't a bug in the system. It is effectively the blueprint. The fall from grace at home gives more momentum for the launch to cushy international posts. The moral of the story is clear. Stumble locally, ascend globally, even if your personal GPS is so busted you can't tell a U-turn from a 360. I like that article. Sorry to share it with you in its entirety because it was a bit long, but I still like it. And so I hope you don't mind too much. Where do we go from here? So many things to do. Let's see. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? The U.S. has issued, after the visit of our friend Graham Cracker, the U.S. has issued a secure, and after the phone call of Trump with Putin, the U.S. has issued a security alert for Kiev. The U.S. Embassy in Kiev has advised Americans to heed air raid sirens and shelter appropriately, warning of a continued risk of significant air attack in a security alert issued Wednesday. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond. Now they're quoting that from Trump's deleted Truth Social post. U.S. U.S. State Department issued a security alert hours after, advising Americans currently in Ukraine to identify shelter locations in advance. Russia has increased the intensity of its missile and drone attacks. against Ukraine in recent weeks, and there is currently a continued risk of significant air attacks. I think that's understatement. I truly do. And there's going to be something. I haven't seen anything recent. I do want to. Where is this one? Putin called the Pope today and had a conversation with the Pope. Where is this other one? We're gonna open it up and check it out because this is pretty new. The Kiev regime is not interested in peace. It has turned to terror, suffering huge losses on the battlefield. I listened to this speech today, Putin's speech in Russian, and here's the short version of what he said today. And he was on the phone with Lavrov and Medinsky, the chief negotiator for Russia in Istanbul the other day. And I listened to their stuff, and then he had a follow-up with some other people. He accused Ukraine leadership of carrying out terrorist attacks on Russian territory in order to derail peace efforts. He said recent sabotage of the railway structures in Russia's Bryansk and Kursk regions were deliberate strikes on civilians. Kiev backers are accomplices to terrorists. He said the attacks are the result of decisions made by Ukraine's top political leadership, and they're definitely terrorist in nature. Here's a direct quote. This only confirms our concern that the already illegitimate regime in Kiev, which once seized power, is gradually turning into a terrorist organization, and its sponsors are becoming accomplices to terrorists. He's speaking specifically about Graham and company. And kind of Trump. And Trump posting this and then deleting it, I don't know. That kind of worries me a little bit. I don't like it. Oh, somebody has just outlined to me that is still up. Well, I'm glad that it's there. Maybe it was only deleted in England, or maybe not. It is still up. Thank you. I assume that was the old JR. Good man. Ooh, there's a nice picture. Wow. Look at those eyes. Thank you, JR, if that was you, which I assume it was. Thank you for finding that for me and putting it in there. Let's see. Ukraine's battlefield losses. He talked about those too. He accused Kiev and its Western backers of previously aiming to inflict a strategic defeat of Russia on the battlefield. Now, he said, the country's leadership is shifting tactics amid their own mounting losses as the Ukrainian forces retreat all along the front lines. You don't get to hear from Putin very much. In fact, I thought that he hadn't spoken, that he should have spoken sooner about these attacks. But I don't know. I've seen a lot of Russian-speaking commentary where they want more. They want more. When are we gonna pound them? When are we really gonna make it hurt? When are we gonna do something more? And I don't know. And part of me wonders the same thing. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I still wonder about it. They haven't gone all in. They haven't. I don't know. Nobody. I believe, like I said over the last couple of days, they are trying to force him to use a tactical nuke or to do something like that. You remember the survey that I told you about that was conducted in Russia, and how that went over the last couple of days. And that a good number of people think that there should be some I don't know what, something huge that occurs. Trump even indicated it in his True Social post that Putin said he was going to have to respond, and he hasn't yet. So Putin called Kiev's railway sabotage intentional strikes on Russian civilian population. And I wonder why Trump doesn't talk about that stuff. He doesn't say anything about that stuff. And really, to me, it's a little bit distressing. I just don't like it. I think, especially because I support him as president, but I also think it's his war now. If he doesn't come out now, but now he's stuck. Now I believe he is stuck with the Lindsay Grahams, with Marco Rubio, with Kellogg for sure. These guys are huge neocons, and they're on these are people that think Jack Keane is smart for saying these things. Jack Keane saying that the U.S. won World War II. You know, ask any historian who knows, ask any eighth grader who knows the tiniest bit about what happened in World War II, who lost the most, who killed the most Germans, it means. Who, if it wasn't, if Russia hadn't stood, there ain't no way the very small amount of time that we came in on the western half with what was left of British army was ever going to be successful. It wasn't. France was already done. You know, it's where are you going to go? What's going to happen? So I don't know. Don't tell me that the guy's that foolish, Keane, that he doesn't know. Putin also said that Kiev regime is not interested in peace, and that is true. Ukraine repeatedly rejected Russia's proposals. This time, they even rejected the 2 to 3 day ceasefire to go and collect bodies of the fallen along the front lines. We don't need that. You know, no, we're not going to do that. And they denied the 3 day ceasefire for Victory Day. They denied the Easter ceasefire. They didn't follow the Trump ceasefire that was talking about energy infrastructure. They haven't. On and on and on this goes. Here's another quote from Putin. It does not surprise us and convinces us further that today's Kiev regime does not want peace at all, he stated. For them, peace most likely means loss of power. He emphasized that power for the Kiev regime is apparently more important than peace, more important than human lives. And he also said that Kiev has a lack of political culture. He accused Ukrainian leadership of lacking basic political skills, pointing to recent public remarks. This week, Ukraine's Zelensky referred to Russia's negotiators as idiots after Moscow proposed a truce to recover fallen soldiers' bodies. Apparently, we are dealing with people who not only have no real competence in anything, but lack even a basic political culture if they allow themselves to make certain statements, including direct insults, against those they claim to want to negotiate with, said Putin. Well said, I will say. Call me a Putin lover if you like, but I'm not a Zelensky lover. I think it's pretty clear what he wants out of this deal. He wants to stay in power, and if he has peace or an election, he ain't going to be there any longer, and this we know. Let's see. Where go the next one? Where's my favorite one? An ex-French spy has come out and said the U.S. intel is behind the Ukrainian attack on Russian planes. Ukraine would not have been able to remotely attack strategic Russian aircraft parked deep inside of Russia without direct intelligence and satellite support from the U.S. Matches what I have to tell you. But now we have somebody else saying it. Where are we going to go? What other funny one? Oh, here was one that was kind of comical today. The Pentagon is to rename the gay U.S. warship. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has reportedly ordered the U.S. Naval Service Harvey Milk to be renamed. The U.S. Navy has been directed to rename the Harvey Milk, a replenishment oiler named after the slain gay rights activist and Navy veteran, as part of a broader initiative by President Trump to eliminate DEI. The upcoming renaming has not yet been officially confirmed, but was outlined in an internal memo. The decision, which comes during Pride Month, has drawn harsh criticism from Democrats, with former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi condemning the move as shameful, vindictive erasure of civil rights figure legacies. California Governor Gavin Newsom called the decision a sign of Trump's contempt for the very values our veterans fight to protect. Trump's always causing problems, isn't he? Here's a really good one. I like this. And I liked it for its title. So here, get this title and tell me you don't think this is amusing. I started to laugh as soon as I read it. Just the title, and I haven't even gone through it. And it's too long, so I'm not going to go through it all. But just the title gives you enough. Pornhub threatens to pull out of France. The adult content platform has accused Paris of compromising user privacy. Oh, I can't take it. Starting on Wednesday, French users will be greeted by a message denouncing the age verification demands, aiming to explain directly how dangerous, how potentially privacy infringing, and how ineffective the French law is. Then they show a picture of it. I'm 18 or older. Please enter. This website contains age-restricted materials. I just thought it was funny. Google, Apple, and Microsoft all have the capability built into their operating systems to verify the age of the user at the operating system or device level. So there you have it. They have to pull out of France, does Pornhub. Oh, I can't take it. I already read that one or told you about it. The UK is pledging 100,000 new drones for Kiev. Well, that's nice. The UK has pledged to supply 100,000 new drones by April 2026, in addition to the 10,000 UAVs it sent last year. The announcement coincides with Britain's newly unveiled Strategic Defence Review. London has allocated £350 million from its £4.5 billion Ukraine military package to fund new drone deliveries to Kiev. U.S. Secretary John Healey is expected to UK Defense Secretary John Healey to detail the initiative at the upcoming Ukraine Contact Group meeting. Ukraine's armed forces have demonstrated the effectiveness of drone warfare. They're sending over 100 and something, 2-3 times a day into Russia. They're sending them over. And drone warfare is kicking the crap out of them. I got a video that I was going to play for you on smart drones and what they do, because Russia has done something quite scary. Listen to this and tell me what you think. Let's see. Hopefully it comes in not too loud. Here we go.
Do you know something unique about Russian drones? Now, Russian forces have developed new technology that combines two deadly weapons into one efficient and lethal system on the battlefield. They have begun using FPV-type drones armed with rocket-propelled grenades, commonly known as RPGs. A rocket-propelled grenade is an anti-tank weapon system typically launched from the shoulder, designed to fire explosive projectiles with the aid of a rocket motor.
For those of you who don't know what an RPG looks like, these are the ones that have the shoulder-fired, looks like a Laws rocket, and it's about 4 inches in diameter, and it's a tube that you put on your shoulder, and in the front of it, it'll have. You always see them in all these war movies, especially in the Middle East, and they use them to blow up planes and stuff. That's an RPG.
This weapon is highly effective in destroying armored vehicles, enemy fortifications, and even low-flying aircraft. Now, when mounted on remotely operated FPV drones, its destructive power becomes even more expansive and flexible. This technological integration marks a new chapter in modern combat tactics, where high-precision strikes can be carried out from a distance without putting soldiers' lives at risk. Has Russia already deployed this combination of drones and rocket-propelled grenades in real conflicts? Keep your eyes on the story. On May 26th, the mayor of Kharkiv, Ihor Terekhov, reported via his official Telegram channel that Russia had begun using a new type of weapon in its attacks on Ukraine. For the first time, Moscow deployed first-person view drones equipped with warheads based on rocket-propelled grenades or RPG. This innovation showcases a deadly combination of weaponry that is small, agile, yet highly destructive. Terekhov emphasized that the presence of this technology marks a new and more dangerous chapter in the evolving dynamics of the battlefield. This attack occurred amid a massive and relentless aerial onslaught by Russia against Ukraine, which, on the night of May 26th, entered its third consecutive night. In the latest strike, the Ukrainian Air Force confirmed that Russia had launched 9 Ka-101 cruise missiles from Tu-95 MS.
Yeah, but we don't need to go any further than that. We'll stop it there. The important part was in the drone warfare. I read an article today that said that, and this was in the Kiev newspaper, that said that it's not correct that Ukraine is outclassing Russia in drone warfare. It was actually a decent article. I didn't keep it to pull it up, but it certainly was entertaining. Remember playing yesterday, Steve Bannon? So, one of the things I like listening to the guy, and I think he's funny. He's in the news again for something, and this is definitely apropos for what we wish to talk about. And he's beaten up on Lindsay Graham right here, which I definitely like. People should beat up on him more often. War lover. Steve Bannon accused Lindsay Graham of stirring up the Ukraine conflict by falsely promising U.S. support to Kiev. I think he's going to get it, though. I truly think the deal's already done. Trump gets his big, beautiful bill, and Lindsay gets his war. That's what I think. I think it's already a done deal. Bannon, no Bannon, Trump or no Trump. I hope I'm wrong, but in fact, I'd be happy to eat a hat if I am. Well, small hat made of pudding or something. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham should be thrown in jail or have his passport revoked for stirring up the Ukraine conflict, former advisor to President Trump, Steve Bannon, has said. Bannon made the comment after Graham, with Senator Richard Blumenthal, visited Kiev last week. There they met with Vladimir Zelensky and discussed, among other things, additional sanctions on Russia and further cooperation between Ukraine and the U.S. And Trump didn't say anything about it, did he? Immediately after the visit, Kiev launched mass drone attacks on multiple Russian airfields, claiming to have damaged 40 warplanes, including bombers. Moscow has not confirmed the loss of aircraft and claims to have shot down most of the drones. Bannon and other critics of U.S. involvement in Ukraine have since speculated that Graham may have encouraged Zelensky to launch the attack, which they claim could have led to serious escalation, given that it targeted Russia's strategic aviation. And by the way, I'm not the only one to notice in his article that came out today. What's his name said the same thing, George Galloway, that the treaty calls for it to stay up. You know, I'm glad that other people are reading as well. Speaking at News Nation's Chris Cuomo on Monday, Bannon claimed that by meeting Zelensky, Graham was giving Ukraine false hope that we're there to support them in engaging Russia. We are not, Bannon stressed, adding that the U.S. is getting sucked into the Ukraine conflict by people like Graham and could soon find it tough to get out. I think we're looking at more. We can't have Lindsey Graham, and particularly Zelensky, leading us into the Third World War with deep strikes into Russia, Bannon insisted, suggesting that U.S. authorities should either cancel Graham's passport, don't let him back in the country, or put him in jail if he comes back. Following Monday's attack, which targeted sites from Murmansk in the Arctic and Irkutsk in Siberia, the number of military experts pointed out that Kiev does not have the technical capability to conduct drone strikes that deep into Russian territory. A writer and former French Army lieutenant colonel told Le Monde that the attack is possible and conceivable only with the support of a powerful satellite communication system based on intelligence provided by the U.S. Throughout the Ukraine conflict, Moscow has described the hostilities as a Western proxy war against Russia and has condemned foreign military assistance to Kiev as counterproductive to the peace process. I heard another idea today that Zelensky is coming over to the U.S. uninvited, unless he was invited by Graham, to come over to the U.S., and the goal is to get Trump's permission to launch missiles into Russia. U.S. missiles, which Biden was allowing the HIMARS. The Germans have said they want to give them Taurus, missiles, German-made. The French have their British Storm Shadows. French, I forget the name of again, but they all want. They won't let Ukraine fire them into Russia without the U.S. So there's a lot of talk that if Zelensky comes over and meets with the right people, and if Trump is beholden to Lindsey Graham to get his big, beautiful bill, then they're going to get their permission to use U.S. missiles to fire into Russia, getting us one step closer to World War III. One step closer. And so who else was it? It might have been Graham as well. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was on the German TV program. Lindsey Graham was on the German TV program saying that China has to pay for this. We have to beat Russia and then beat China. And he's using Ukraine as the start for it, that China should be beat up upon because they haven't condemned Russia for what's going on in Ukraine. The guy's a nut. I don't believe he reflects at all what the American people are thinking. and certainly not South Carolinians. I can't imagine that there are South Carolinians thinking like he is thinking. If they are, they're a definite minority. Even if you hate Putin, I can't imagine that there are Americans out there that want to escalate and escalate like this guy wants to escalate. He wants to put 500% sanctions on everybody. We're going to get them. We got the mother of all sanctions. We'll get him. Guy's a nut. I told you about Putin's phone call with the Pope, but I'm not going to tell you about that. I wanted to do one more thing. Here is the world's largest bank says that Ukraine will fail. And this came from the Kiev. Well, this is a newspaper or a platform called Euromaidan. World's largest bank says Ukraine will fail. So it's going to be twisted toward Ukraine. I don't want you to think I always twist it toward Russia, but I don't agree with this. But here goes. Apparently forgetting that Ukraine doesn't take orders from anyone. Yeah. JP Morgan's 3.2 trillion credibility meets Ukrainian defiance. JP Morgan assigns Ukraine reconstruction 2-to-1 odds of failure despite 326 billion euro in European defense spending. Ukraine's Western integration employs 300,000 people through industrial partnerships. Bank's assessment could become self-fulfilling prophecy by constraining further investment. Analysis repeats the same errors that underestimated Ukrainian resilience in 2022, delaying crucial early support, meaning free money. Russia spends 7.1% of GDP on military, while Ukraine builds permanent institutional ties with the West. Yeah, but they didn't say how much they are spending on GDP because they don't have a GDP. When JP Morgan assigned Ukrainian reconstruction 2-to-1 odds of failure, the world's largest bank wasn't just making a prediction about Ukraine's future, it's wagering against the same Ukrainian agency that has consistently defied institutional expectations. The timing appears significant. By 2025, Ukraine's Western integration had gained substantial momentum. Industrial partnership employs 300,000 people, 326 billion euros in European defense spending, including Ukraine, and institutional lock-in approaching irreversibility. Now, the 326 billion is a farce because that's all over Europe. They have the defense spending all across the EU of 326 billion, but not in Ukraine. When an institution managing 3.2 trillion makes such assessments, they influence insurance rates, loan guarantees, and foreign direct investment that could determine outcomes. This isn't theoretical. In February 2022, Western predictions of Ukraine collapse created reluctance to provide robust support, they call it, right? Ex-Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba described how German officials looked at him as if he were doomed. The pessimism delayed crucial early assistance, contributing to territorial losses that stronger initial support may have prevented. The problem is that J.P. Morgan's analysis repeats the same errors that made Western institutions so wrong about Ukraine in 2022. Well, they were wrong in 2022. I don't understand what they're saying that's positive. And so far, they haven't outlined it. They consistently underestimate Ukrainian resilience and overestimate Russian strategic capability. The fundamental mistake is treating Ukraine as a passive object of great power competition rather than an actor shaping its own destiny. Oh, yeah, it's shaping its own destiny, all right. When Russia launched its full blown invasion, there's those words again, full blown invasion. It's not a referendum, remember. Analysts assume Ukraine would behave like a typical post Soviet state, passive, corrupt, waiting for rescue. What are they right now? Passive, corrupt, and waiting for rescue. They're waiting for Lindsay Graham, destined to fail while Russia captures the country in weeks. Instead, Ukraine chose to fight, mobilize civil society. They didn't mobilize civil society, they did that before the war. They were already up to 1 million members by then. They had been building their war since 2014 after Maidan, because that was the goal, to go over and create a new military and take over and start a fight in Russia to get missiles put in Ukraine and allow biological testing. And all of the NATO governments had a stake in it and had people in there. The US had tons of people in there that they weren't supposed to have, allegedly. Let's see. The bank's track record on major predictions raises additional concerns. When JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon predicted an economic hurricane in 2022 that never materialized, investors who followed his advice missed significant market gains. When the bank called Bitcoin a fraud in 2017 before eventually offering it to its clients, the consequences were financial. Now the stakes are higher. A country fighting for its survival depends on, I like these words, investment flows. JP Morgan's assessment could influence. They're getting investment flows. They're getting gifts. Well, depending on who you are, I don't think I hope Trump doesn't just sign, oh, gee, here's another $60 billion. He's going to give them money. Lindsey Graham's already got it in the bag. And he's got to do it, or he doesn't get his big, beautiful bill, which I wonder about anyway. That's got a lot of pork in there. And I have read a little bit of it. I haven't gone too deep in it, but I'd trust Elon Musk when it says it's full of pork. Here we are with the first one, and you got an extra $1.8 trillion in there. Come on. Oh, yeah, but we're just going to invest in the U.S. Well, I'd like to see that, but you don't need it in order to succeed. In fact, you'd be better off if you let the private sector do those things. No doubt. Well, I don't know. I think I'm not even going to read the rest of this. I'll get to the last page. Why Ukraine's trajectory differs fundamentally. Consider where to go. Damn it, where's my paragraph? Well, it's a very long article, and I didn't want to read it all. JP Morgan deserves credit for identifying vulnerability that Western analysts miss. I'm not going to fish it. You get the general point of it. And I'm running out of time anyway. So, there you have it. I appreciate you showing up tonight. I am Samuel Trapp. This is International Flavor. Listen to our podcast. Today's the end of the longest day in radio for damnradio.com. We are on every night at 9 p.m. for you, Missouri time. 9 p.m. to 10:30, and I'm very glad that you're here. But if you don't happen to hear it all during the time, you can listen to the podcasts at internationalflavor.com or go to damnradio.com/podcasts, and you can also listen to everyone in the schedule by going to damnradio.com/podcasts and listening to their programs as well. Good stuff all the way around. I'm very glad to have you. Tomorrow, I think I heard JR in his show say that he may not be there, so we may only have music over the weekend. Might be a long weekend for us. I hope what am I going to do with no JR to listen to? Well, he said it depends, so maybe we'll get lucky. But the schedule still has him up and on there, so we shall see. But we got a really big shoe and then Eye of the Beholder. And I'm not on tomorrow. Well, no, tomorrow's only Thursday. Yes, I am. I think he was talking about Friday anyway. I'm a goon. Anyway, you have a very nice day. Follow the schedule at damradio.com/schedule. You have a very good evening. Get you some sleep, and let's join in tomorrow. I think my brother's going to be here. Have a good night.